voglio per me va bene, non tornerà. Ti voglio così.
A national emergency has been called in Israel as strong winds and high temperatures have fueled wildfires outside of Jerusalem. Fire crews have been battling the fires there, with several people reported to have been suffering from burns and smoke inhalation. That's according to Israel's medical emergency services there. Well, let's speak to our Middle East correspondent, Yolande Nell. Yolande, talk us through the situation there.
So from what we understand, there are still about 6 areas in the hills outside of Jerusalem where you've got firefighters battling these flames. They're being helped by the Israeli army as well. There are several towns in that area that have been evacuated. About 3,000 acres of land have been burnt. Now, when the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was talking about this, he said there had been a deadly combination of dryness and strong winds. You can see the wind is starting to pick up again now. In some cases, arson is suspected, also poor land management. And inevitably, the Israeli media is really picking over this today, talking about the state's level of preparedness for such wildfires, because this is said to have been the biggest fire that the country has experienced. And Israel has become more prone to wildfires of this kind in recent years, with experts warning that climate change is just going to make it even more prone, that their fire hazard is increasing.
Yolande, thank you for that. Well, let's speak now to BBC weather presenter Simon King, who's standing by for us. Simon, just talk us through what's been happening.
Yeah, so Lewis, of course, the wildfire itself may have been started by arson or other methods there, as Yolande said, about the poor land management. But of course, when a fire starts, you look to the weather conditions, to how severe or how far they may spread. Now, in Israel and Jerusalem, we've been seeing some strong winds recently. Gusts today are up to about 50, 60 kilometres an hour. And they, of course, just fan these flames. And they're coming in from a westerly direction, which means at the moment, they are on the border of Israel and Jerusalem, and there is concern that with that westerly wind, it will push the flames a little bit further eastward into Jerusalem itself. Now, temperatures across Israel and Jerusalem haven't actually been that high, around about average really, of about 22 to 25 degrees Celsius. But of course, we're now going into the dry season in that region. So, of course, the vegetation is very dry already. So when you get these fires that start, that's when they can spread really quite quickly.
Simon, thank you.
Shalom. Welcome to another video. And as always, before I get started, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Wadash, and next double honors to the head apostles / elder bishops of the Great Millstone who teach and who rule well. Peace, blessings, and safety to all you sincere Akim. Keep pushing, keep believing, and keep the faith, regardless of what the people hear or whether they forbear. Alright, so you see the video, alright, the video clip. Okay, apparently there's been wildfires that are ravaging the land of Israel right now. Okay, we know the reason why, because the people that are over there are not the people. Okay, these are just different plagues, and this is only the beginning. There's going to be much more. All right, those people that are over there right now are the people the Lord's cursed to judgment. Okay, the Israelis, which really go back to Amalek, okay, which is the chief duke, or the top tribe, you could say, of Esau Edom. All right, so okay, it's in the prophecies the Lord will burn them out of the land. So this is really a foreshadowing of what Yahweh Basham Yahweh Shai is getting ready to do in these last times, because he has to clean the land up for the rightful inhabitants, which are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, okay, which are prophesied to go back to their land after the great destruction and the second coming of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. All right, so anyways, let's dive right into this topic. And Yahweh Ratazah, meaning Heavenly Father's will, is edifying to the elect. I'm going to start off in Ezekiel 36:5. It says, "Therefore, thus saith Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea." All right, that's who's over there, Idumea, which is another word for Edom. It says, "which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart, with the spiteful minds to cast it out for a prey." So he said, in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, against Idumea, the Edomites, who have appointed his land into their possession. Okay, so the people over there right now are Esau. They're Edomites. Okay, when the real Israelites return to the land, it says that there's going to be peace. It's not going to be war anymore, and it's going to come after Yahushua returns and the kingdom is set up. Okay, the kingdom of heaven is set up on the earth. So this is a foreshadowing of what Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai is getting ready to do on a much larger scale. All right, to Esau. Okay, let's get Isaiah chapter 29, and I'm going to start at verse 5. It says, "Moreover, the multitude of thy strangers shall be like small dust, and the multitude of the terrible ones shall be as the chaff that passeth away." And that's talking about the Edomites. "Yea, it shall be at an instant, suddenly. Thou shalt be visited of the Lord of hosts with thunder, and with earthquake, and great noise, with storm and tempest, and the flame of devouring fire." Okay, so that's what's getting ready to happen, and that's what's happening right now. Okay, that's the Lord, all right, burning that place up. Once again, a foreshadowing of their future, which is nuclear destruction, nuclear fire. It says, verse 7, "And the multitude of all the nations that fight against Ariel," another word for Jacob, even all that fight against her and her munition, and that distress her, shall be as a dream of a night vision. So he's going to wipe them out of existence. Okay, first with their power being taken from them, all right, at the second coming of Yahushai, all right, and at the nuclear missiles, the nuclear missiles are going to burn their kingdom up. That's going to burn those people out of the land, all right, and eventually they'll be eradicated, thrown into one big bonfire, according to the book of Obadiah. Okay, so once again, this is a foreshadowing of what's to come. Let's get Psalms chapter 9 and verse 16. All right, it says, "Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai is known by the judgment which he executeth. The wicked is snared in the work of his own hands. Higion Selah." Okay, so they've been over there defiling the land, shedding blood, all right, destroying people, okay, oppressing people, and now the same thing is happening to them through natural causes. They're being destroyed, okay, and now they're asking for aid and no one wants to give it to them. Okay, that's the devil the Bible speaks of, and the world is starting to recognize Esau for who he really is. All right, verse 17, it says, "The wicked shall be turned into hell, and all the nations that forget God." Okay, so Esau, all right, which once again they're the top of the dukes of Esau. Okay, Amalek, all right, shall be turned into hell. All right, meaning they're going to be destroyed and they're going to be brought down to the grave. All right, let's get Psalms 11 and 6. Okay, this is what has been promised unto them, all right, for the grand finale. It says, "Upon the wicked he shall rain snares, fire and brimstone, and an horrible tempest," which is a storm. It says, "This shall be the portion of their cup." So this is once again a foreshadowing of what the Lord has in store for Esau. Okay, starting off with the elites, the elite banking families, the Rothschilds, Gettys, Bloombergs, Eisenhowers, which these are all pretty much, 1948ers. They're all big nose, small head people. Okay, so the Lord, he's showing his power. All right, once again, he comes in the flame of the devouring fire. All right, and once again, okay, they're going to be turned into hell because why? They bring the conditions of hell. All right, they bring the conditions of the grave, of hell and of death. All right, they terrorize other nations. So the Lord is getting ready to show them who the true king of terrors is. This is Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 4. It says, "Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith." Okay, and they're very proud. All right, the scriptures talk about the pride of Esau. Okay, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. It says, "Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people." Okay, so when you see that phrasing together, of hell and of death. You see it primarily in 3 places. All right, here in Habakkuk 2, also in Isaiah 28, it talks about Jacob, our people, making a covenant with hell and with death, meaning they made a covenant with Esau. Okay, and then you read it also in Revelation, the 20th chapter, which we're going to go to next, where it says that hell and death shall be cast into the lake of fire. Okay, this is what it's talking about. Okay, because Esau, right, I'm going to read verse 5 again. Yea, also because he transgressed by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. So he brings the conditions of hell and of death, okay? And the Lord is going to take him, his whole system, the conditions that he brings, and he's going to cast it into the lake of fire at the great judgment. Okay, once again spoken of in Revelation, the 20th chapter. This is Revelation 20 and verse 12. It says, and I saw the dead, small and great, stand before the Most High, and the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. All right, so everything that you've done is all on record. Okay, it says, and the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books, according to their works. And the sea, I gave up the dead which were in it. Okay, this is the spiritually dead. The sea represents the people. It says, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them. Okay, so all of our people that are spiritually dead joined unto Esau. All right, okay, they're going to be delivered up, and they were judged every man according to their works. And what's the end result of that judgment? It says, and death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. Okay, and what is death and hell? Death and hell is, once again, Esau, Edom, the conditions that he brings, the society, all right, the image of the beast, all these things. Okay, this is all part of death and hell. Okay, this is the conditions that he brings on earth. All this is going to be destroyed, all right, when that nuclear fire comes. Okay, which is the lake of fire. The nuclear missiles burning up America, Babylon the Great completely. All right, burning up that land over there in Israel. All right, and then also various parts of the earth. And then of course you have, to add to that fire, you're going to have your Hawashai, all right, coming with the hosts of heaven, and they're going to be zapping people. They're going to have their own fire that's coming as well. Okay, but the lake of fire, for the most part, is talking about America. All right, that's the lake of fire, and the Lord is going to once again burn up that land over there with all those people. All right, and anyone who's joined unto this beast system. Okay, it says in verse 15, and whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. Okay, so this is a foreshadowing. All right, this is a foreshadowing. And in the midst of all this, all right, Yahushua is going to come with the chariots, with the vehicles and the angels, with the people of the world will call so-called UFOs, because you don't know what they are. You've never seen them before. You don't know what kind of technology they are, but you know that they're flying objects and they're unidentified. That's why we say so-called UFOs, but we know exactly what they are, the chariots of Yahweh Bashemel Shai. All right, but when the fire comes, okay, he's going to deliver his elect. Malachi 4:1, it says, for behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings, and you shall go forth and grow up as the calves of the stall. Okay, so the day that's going to come is going to burn as an oven, right? Okay, and it's gonna vaporize these people. But to you that fear his name, okay, the elect, the remnant of the true Israelites, all right, okay, would the Lord come with healing in his wings. You're gonna get beamed up into the chariots, all right, and at that time you're gonna get your new bodies at the twinkling of an eye, as it talks about in 1 Corinthians 15th chapter, around about verse 50. Okay, and then verse 3 it says, and you shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet in the day that I shall do this, saith the Lord of hosts. So this is, once again, keep saying, I'm going to say it over again, this is a foreshadowing of what is to come. These wildfires is a foreshadowing of what the punishment of the wicked is going to be, which is going to be the lake of fire. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the lesson. I'm going to close out with that. Yahweh righteous, always edifying. As always, give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Wadash. And until next time, Shalom, and abide b'ball.
Whoever perished being innocent, and you can always watch the video. Look at that shit burnt to a damn crisp. The Lord burned it to a damn crisp, man. All right? Look at it, man. Just look at it. But you ain't afraid, though. You wake up, you know what I'm saying, smiling and laughing. You're not afraid of the God of the Bible, right? You're tough. You're bad. You're a thug, right? You're a goon. You're a bad bitch, right? You're a boss bitch, right? Well, the Lord got something for each and every last one of you, man.